You ever have one of those days where everything just feels off? A task you can do, but it suddenly feels impossible? Well, we're going to solve a mystery that starts exactly like that, with a stand-up paddleboarder, a physical test, and a set of numbers that just don't make any sense at all. Let's break down the invisible forces that turned a totally routine paddle into a real puzzle. And there it is, the heart of our mystery. 27 minutes on the water, and he's only gone 2 kilometers. Now, just to give you some perspective, this is an athlete who can usually crush 4 kilometers in about 42 minutes. So this isn't just, a bad day. This is a complete and utter failure. Something went seriously, seriously wrong out there. So what happened? Really? Was it the athlete, his gear, the conditions? We're going to play detective here and look at all the evidence, piece by piece, to really get to the bottom of this. Okay, so every investigation has to start at the scene of the crime, right? The plan was super simple. A 4-kilometer paddle. The goal was to get it done in under 50 minutes. This was a standard test, something he'd done before, something he trained for. But what actually happened on the water? Well, it wasn't even in the same ballpark as the plan. The numbers here tell a pretty brutal story. He was aiming for 4 kilometers, but he barely even made it halfway. And look at that pace, a full minute slower for every kilometer than his target. This wasn't just him being a little off his game. This was like trying to run a 100-meter dash through quicksand. Some powerful unseen force was at work here. And now, we get our first real clues. This wasn't some peaceful paddle on a glassy lake. Oh no, the ocean was alive that day. We're talking big, churning waves, the pull of high tides, and a wind that just would not quit. Each one of these is a key suspect in our investigation. All right, let's look at our first suspect, the waves. Now, you might be thinking, well, duh, of course waves make it harder. But the reason why goes a lot deeper than just, trying to keep your balance. It's actually a hidden trick of physics. So here's the part that'll kind of bend your brain. The distance on your GPS, that's just a straight line from point A to point B. But in reality, your board is on a roller coaster, climbing up the face of every single wave and then sliding down the back. All of that up and down travel adds hidden distance to your journey. Think about it like this. On a totally calm day, 2 kilometers is, well, it's 2 kilometers. But in these big waves, that wavy line you're traveling could easily stretch that out to 2.5 kilometers. He was running a longer race than the one he signed up for, and he didn't even know it. But the waves weren't working alone. Turns out there were 2 other invisible accomplices on the scene that day, wind and current. And believe me, these forces can turn a nice paddle into an absolute nightmare. Wind can either be your superpower or your kryptonite. With the wind at your back, a tailwind, you're practically flying. Paddlers call it downwinding, where you're basically surfing from one wave crest to the next. But our guy had the exact opposite, a headwind. He was paddling straight into an invisible wall, a force that fought him on every single stroke. And the paddler himself, he described it as a complicated, focused problem. And that's the key right there. See, these forces don't take turns. The wind is pushing, the current is pulling, and the waves are heaving. They all gang up on you at the same time, creating this perfect storm of resistance. So, we've got the waves, the wind, and the current. Case closed, right? Well, not quite. There is one more suspect, and this one was hiding in plain sight, the board itself. And just listen to his own words. He said he was constantly struggling getting balance. Think about what that means. All the power that he should have been using to move forward was being totally wasted on just trying not to fall into the water. His engine was powerful, but it was being completely throttled. So why was he so unstable? Well, he was on a racing board. Think of it like a Formula One car. It's built for pure speed on a perfect flat track. But would you ever drive an F1 car off-road? No way. In chaotic, choppy water, that sleek, fast design becomes a huge liability. He was trying to race a sports car through a field of boulders. A slower, more stable board would have been the right tool for the job, letting him use his power for speed, not just for survival. Okay, so the evidence is all in. We've investigated the scene, we've interrogated the suspects, the waves, the wind, the current, and even his own equipment. Now, it is time to put it all together and solve this mystery once and for all. Say, this wasn't one single problem. It was a cascade of failures. First, the waves were making the race longer. Then, the wind was basically slamming on the brakes. The current was trying to drag him off course. And finally, the board, the very tool he was using, was draining all the energy he needed to fight back against everything else. It wasn't a single culprit at all. It was a conspiracy, the compounding effect of all these forces working together. Any one of them would have been a challenge, but all four together, it was the perfect storm. The mystery is solved. But hey, this isn't just a story about paddleboarding. It's a lesson about performance, about facing challenges, and really about understanding the hidden forces that affect all of us. So what's the real takeaway here? These lessons from the water, they apply everywhere. First, know your environment. The path ahead is almost never as simple as it looks on a map. Second, bring the right tools for the job you actually have to do, not the one you wish you were doing. And maybe most importantly, never ever underestimate the power of small, invisible forces. On their own, they're just annoying, but together, they can stop you dead in your tracks. So I'll just leave you with this question. In your own world, your job, your passions, your projects, what are the invisible forces at play? What are the hidden waves, the unexpected headwinds, or maybe the wrong tools that might be holding you back?